So welcome, and we're so happy to have you here to hear a presentation on building partnerships between families and schools. If you're just arriving, you do need to choose in that little globe, that interpretation, you have to choose either English, Spanish, or Portuguese. So building partnerships between families and schools is a topic that was that came out of our survey that we did a few years back, asking all of you, the network, the Deafblind International Network of Americas, to be able to choose what topics you wanted to hear more about. And we had a symposium where a year or two ago with Dr. Barbara McClutchy, and a discussion following how to build trusting relationships. And then we had a discussion with Maurice Belot, and when he was talking about closure and how important beginning, middle, and end is to our students with deaf blindness. And today we have two organizations who are going to share building partnerships with families and schools. We will have a time for questions and answers after each presentation. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we will entertain those questions at the end of the first presentation, and then again at the end of the second presentation. We're going to start today with a model that is being used in Mexico, and we're going to have Gloria Rodriguez-Gil and Maria del Carmen Shelsky to be able to share their work in building model programs and partnerships with families. So at this point, Gloria, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Hola a todos. Hoy voy a presentar en español con Mari Carmen. En este momento voy a compartir la pantalla. Y vamos a empezar. Perdón. En la pantalla dice construyendo alianzas entre familias y escuelas, que es el tema de nuestra presentación de hoy. Está el nombre de Mari Carmen Shelsky, que es la coordinadora de familias de México, y mi nombre, Gloria Rodríguez-Gil, que soy la directora de programas de América Latina y el Caribe. Y también ven una foto, hay una foto de un grupo muy, muy grande de familias y profesionales de la escuela. Esta es una foto que escogimos Mari Carmen y yo, porque es un encuentro que sucedió en octubre pasado en Jalisco, México, donde participaron 36 familias, 18 profesionales de 13 escuelas y de 5 estados de la República Mexicana. Estos encuentros, este fue el primero, traen a las familias y a los profesionales que más tienen relación con familias en las escuelas donde estamos trabajando en México. Los profesionales pueden ser directores de escuela, trabajadores sociales, psicólogos, pero que tienen un contacto directo con las familias. Y el propósito es eso, construir una alianza entre las familias y las escuelas. Y en este caso fue un encuentro de 2 días en donde al final construyeron un plan de acción, las familias y las escuelas juntos para cada una de las escuelas. En la parte inferior de la transparencia está el logo de Perkins School for the Blind, el logo de Deafblind International, Network of the Americas, y el logo de Proyecto Pichán. El proyecto en México se llama Proyecto Pichán, Pixán es un nombre en maya que quiere decir alma. Y Pixán se deletrea P-I-X-A-N. Para ir a la siguiente transparencia, no sé cómo hacer, aquí estamos. Sí, esta es. Estoy empezando yo la presentación de Mari Carmen y yo para dar el contexto de, nuestra estrategia de programa modelo, de proyecto modelo. En esta, como ustedes ven en la transparencia, hay un triángulo con los 3 elementos más importantes de nuestra estrategia de programa modelo. En la parte superior, el vértice superior del triángulo está la escuela. En la parte derecha, el vértice derecho, está la familia. Y en la parte izquierda está la comunidad. La escuela es en México estamos trabajando en escuelas públicas. En su mayoría, en estos momentos, son escuelas especiales, pero estamos este año empezando con escuelas regulares que tienen programas inclusivos. El propósito de la estrategia de programa modelo es escoger escuelas que tengan el potencial de convertirse en escuelas modelo y que después de fortalecerlas, de desarrollarlas en conjunto con los gobiernos locales, ellos tengan un efecto de dominó o un efecto cascada donde otras escuelas en sus estados se conviertan también en escuelas modelo. En la fotografía de la escuela vemos una maestra con un niño sentado a la mesa haciendo un trabajo juntos. Otro elemento fundamental de la estrategia de programa modelo es la familia. Como sabemos, la familia y la escuela tienen que trabajar en conjunto para poder avanzar la educación de los niños y niñas y jóvenes con discapacidad, de todos los niños y niñas y jóvenes. Entonces, también en esta estrategia nosotros trabajamos con las familias de estas escuelas modelo que les estoy mencionando. Y ahora Mari Carmen va a hablar cómo es que estamos trabajando con las escuelas o cómo ella, como coordinadora familiar, está trabajando con las escuelas y las familias. Y otro elemento fundamental de la estrategia de programa modelo es la comunidad. Cuando hablamos de comunidad, no solo hablamos de la comunidad escolar, de la escuela, sino también hablamos de la comunidad donde la escuela está ubicada y también de la comunidad nacional e internacional. Como ustedes probablemente saben, Perkins School for the Blind es una escuela privada sin fines de lucro y todo el trabajo que hacemos a nivel internacional requiere de la recaudación de fondos. Y entonces la comunidad internacional nos ayuda en este trabajo. El propósito de este modelo es que las escuelas, como dije, se conviertan en escuelas modelos y tengan un efecto multiplicador donde estén. Lo que se quiere es que esas escuelas den una educación de calidad, accesible y que los niños, niñas y jóvenes con discapacidad puedan aprender. Aquí, para darles un poquito más del contexto, vemos el mapa de México. A la izquierda dice Estrategia México 2023-2030. Nosotros tenemos una estrategia en México hasta 2030 donde queremos llegar a 71 escuelas. Ahora, como pueden ver en la columna izquierda, en el 2023 vamos a llegar a 22 escuelas y están marcadas en azul. Para el 2026 vamos a aumentar 27 escuelas más y está en color rojo anaranjado. Para el 2030 aumentaremos a 22 escuelas, perdón. Y como les dije, queremos llegar a 71 escuelas para el 2030. En la mano derecha, ustedes pueden ver el mapa de México y cada uno de esos puntos que están de colores, es color azul, color rojo y color verde, son las escuelas, representan una escuela. y queremos llegar al final al 2030, queremos llegar a 15 estados de la República Mexicana. Estos estados son Baja California Sur, Guanajuato, Jalisco, el Estado de México, Morelos, Puebla, Sonora, Nuevo León, San Luis Potosí, Aguascalientes, Querétaro, Ciudad de México, Campeche, donde está en este momento Mari Carmen Xelesque, que nos va a presentar en un momento, Yucatán y Quintana Roo. Esto es un trabajo muy, muy grande de un equipo muy comprometido que tenemos en México, que dirige Martelena Ramírez. Y hablando un poco más del contexto, ¿cómo es que elegimos estas escuelas? En la primera fase, nosotros firmamos un acuerdo con cada uno de los estados donde estamos trabajando. México es un país federal, así como los Estados Unidos, y cada estado tiene su propio gobierno, tiene su propia Secretaría de Educación. Entonces, nosotros firmamos un acuerdo formal con cada una de las secretarías de Educación de México donde trabajamos. Luego, escogemos, hacemos una selección de las escuelas con los gobiernos. Los gobiernos nos entregan una lista de escuelas que ellos consideran que tienen el potencial de convertirse en escuelas modelo. Nosotros visitamos las escuelas, nos reunimos con los maestros, con las familias, con los directores de las escuelas para ver si ellos quieren ser parte del proyecto Pishan, y vemos también si tienen el potencial de convertirse en escuelas modelos, y así los seleccionamos. Una vez seleccionada la escuela, pasamos a la fase 2, que es la evaluación de la escuela. Y Perkins tiene unos indicadores de calidad que se llaman los indicadores de calidad de Perkins, que usamos para evaluar la escuela como una línea base, y luego, basados en esa evaluación, creamos un plan de acción con la escuela. Y además damos una capacitación de 3 niveles, que lleva 3 años, que se llama la Academia Perkins Internacional, y damos capacitaciones individualizadas y también damos acompañamiento. Después, cada año seguimos evaluando la escuela y vamos viendo cómo se va desarrollando, y vamos evaluando también el plan de acción. Y así vamos año con año con estas escuelas en este desarrollo de selección y mejora. Y ahora ya vamos a entrar más en la parte de familias. Y antes de dar la palabra a Mari Carmen Xelesque, que es la coordinadora familiar de México, quiero hablar un poco del rol del coordinador de familias. Este es un rol nuevo para nosotros, para Perkins en América Latina. Antes nosotros teníamos consultores que contratábamos individualmente para cada capacitación, pero ahora tenemos un coordinador de familias permanente en nuestros equipos de Perkins en América Latina. Es muy importante porque estos coordinadores de familias, son la voz de la familia en nuestros equipos de Perkins en América Latina. Entonces, es uno de los roles principales, ser la voz para la familia. También, por supuesto, ellos fortalecen a las familias con quienes trabajan, brindándoles capacitaciones, haciendo talleres, dando acompañamiento para que estas familias se empoderen, se vuelvan más autónomas, crezcan su conocimiento y liderazgo. También un rol fundamental es, como el tema de esta presentación lo dice, es promover el acercamiento y la colaboración entre la familia y escuela. Nosotros queremos cambiar o transformar poco a poco la cultura de colaboración entre las familias y las escuelas, lo cual no es una tarea fácil, pero sí es posible. Y también un rol importante del coordinador de familias, este plan de acción que nosotros desarrollamos con las escuelas. Este plan de acción tiene componentes, por supuesto, objetivos y acciones relacionadas con las familias. Entonces, el rol del coordinador de familia es participar en el plan de acción y que también las actividades que ellos desarrollen con las familias esté alineado con el plan de acción de la escuela. A la izquierda de esta transparencia vemos una foto, Mari Carmen al frente de un grupo de familias. En este momento estábamos en medio del COVID, entonces vemos las personas con una máscara y están desarrollando una dinámica para fortalecer la unión entre las familias y los profesionales. En este momento le voy a dar la palabra a Mari Carmen Xelesque y voy a cambiar la transparencia. Mari Carmen.
Gracias, Gloria. Gracias. Bueno, una de las preguntas importantes precisamente es, ¿cuáles son esas estrategias? ¿Cómo estamos desarrollando este trabajo? ¿Cómo es que damos este servicio a las familias y cómo establecemos esa vinculación entre la escuela y las familias? Aquí hay algunas de esas estrategias. Del lado izquierdo se habla sobre sesiones impartidas, obviamente que están alineadas al trabajo académico. La imagen que está a nuestra derecha es precisamente del CAM 8 de Champotón, en Campeche, en donde se trabajó trabajo colaborativo y se reconocían las fortalezas de todas las familias. En estas sesiones se comienza un proceso de fortalecimiento a todos los integrantes que asisten, en donde, utilizando técnicas de trabajo, de conocimiento personal y temas relacionados con el proceso educativo de sus hijos, así como los sistemas alternativos y aumentativos de comunicación, calendarios, transición a la vida adulta, proyecto de vida futura, ya sea familiar, laboral, personal, liderazgo y gestión, así como formación en cuanto al uso de las redes. Todo esto, obviamente, utilizando diversas estrategias que fomentan el empoderamiento asertivo, el trabajo colaborativo y el liderazgo de transformación, que es el liderazgo que las familias, que los padres realizamos, porque somos agentes de cambio social. En la siguiente imagen está un grupo de profesores en el Centro de Atención Múltiple Estatal 15 de Hermosillo, Sonora, en el norte del país, en donde se escuchan las necesidades que tiene la comunidad para poder brindar entonces nosotros esas herramientas necesarias a las familias. No solamente es escuchar a las familias como coordinador familiar, sino también es abrir el diálogo con los profesionales para poder entender cuáles son esas necesidades, cuáles son esas estrategias que ellos necesitan, muy específicas para poder trabajar con ellos y poder llegar a la meta. En la siguiente imagen es el CAM 8 de Aguascalientes, en donde se establece la comunicación entre coordinadores. Se encuentra ahí la coordinadora académica, se encuentra la coordinación de investigación, la titular de comunicación, la titular también de apoyo físico y junto con mi persona, la coordinación de familia, establecemos precisamente ese diálogo para poder implementar juntos el plan de acción que mencionó ya Gloria, todos los objetivos específicos que se adecuaron y que se acordaron, y los cuales se comparten con todo el colegiado, con todos los demás profesores, para que esto quede claro y la escuela pueda funcionar toda junta. Ahora también se utiliza la estrategia de la retroalimentación al personal docente. La imagen que está hacia abajo, del lado derecho, la última imagen, me encuentro estableciendo un diálogo también en alguna presentación, en alguna sesión muy específica sobre algún tema que solicitaron los profesores para poder trabajar con las familias. Y esa retroalimentación es muy importante para que puedan trabajar a su vez con cada uno de sus alumnos. Esa imagen corresponde al CAMP 6 en Calquini, Campeche, en donde me encuentro ahora, porque estamos trabajando con las familias y también con toda la planta docente. La que sigue, por favor, Gloria. En esta imagen, en este slide se encuentran 3 imágenes. Una del lado izquierdo, que es en donde está toda la planta docente, con el coordinador de familias y mi persona. En la imagen del lado derecho superior es el grupo de familias líderes que se dio cita del Centro de Atención Múltiple Roberto Solís Quiroga, el cual se encuentra en Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco. Y la imagen que se encuentra del lado derecho hacia abajo son un grupo de madres trabajando precisamente en los resultados que tuvieron un día antes en uno de los talleres. El apoyo con la escuela es precisamente promoviendo el diálogo y por resultado las acciones a realizar pueden estar relacionadas y plasmadas en este plan de acción tan importante para su ciclo que están desarrollando. Se dan pequeños pasos desde conocer el trabajo que se realiza, la importancia de tomar conciencia en el significado del rol de las familias y cómo sensibilizar a toda la comunidad de padres y madres, aquellos que a veces no pueden acercarse a la escuela por múltiples razones. Ante este panorama de herramientas, el empoderamiento y el liderazgo de transformación surge. Y precisamente este CAM, dirigido por el maestro Leandro Bernal Cruz, se distingue por el trabajo que se realiza con los docentes. Entre ellos es un grupo muy cohesionado, muy fortalecido. Una de las maestras, Raquel Rizo Morales, es maestra de apoyo a la inclusión y también maestra de trabajo complementario, la cual han coadyuvado para poder trabajar en línea y también de manera presencial, que eso también es algo muy importante. No en todos los espacios se logra, pero gracias a este grupo docente fortalecido se ha podido hacer. Los valores que distinguen a este camp son compromiso, empatía, tolerancia, respeto y responsabilidad. La que sigue, por favor. En esta última imagen, en este último slide, para hablar del liderazgo de las familias, la primera imagen que tenemos del lado izquierdo superior es precisamente del CAMP 7J que se encuentra en Cancún, Quintana Roo, y el cual se ha distinguido por el trabajo que el grupo de madres líderes está realizando con otras madres dentro del plantel. Además de eso, han realizado vinculaciones con autoridades para encontrar juntos soluciones a problemáticas de la comunidad escolar y su entorno. Han trabajado temas importantes para las familias, como los cuidados del cuidador, y ellos llamaron a su grupo Escucha, Aprende y Comparte. Todo esto también ha sido gracias al acompañamiento de su director, el profesor José Cantún, la trabajadora social, Yasmín Perales, y un grupo de madres líderes que ha distinguido las necesidades de esta comunidad y que a través de la cooperación y la sensibilidad han logrado diversos talleres dependiendo de las necesidades que los mismos padres les han externado. La que se encuentra en la imagen con un estambre, una madeja de hilo, está tratando de establecer una red entre todas las madres y cada una va aportando qué es lo que siente cuando tiene que enfrentarse a algún reto con sus hijos con discapacidad. Este grupo de madres líderes se ha distinguido porque al principio no pensaban que podían lograr nada que pudieran proponerse. Pero con el tiempo, ellas han entendido y han crecido y ahora todo lo enfrentan de una manera más feliz y más emocionante. Los valores que pueden distinguir a esta comunidad es la cooperación, la sensibilidad, el compromiso, la creatividad, el valor y la lealtad. Y la imagen que tenemos del lado derecho, en donde hay 3 personas en la fotografía, 2 son madres, la señora Julisa Borbón Curiel, la psicóloga Mayra Terán y la otra señora que nos acompaña, que es María de los Ángeles Galaviz, en la imagen, que ellas asistieron al primer encuentro de familias compartiendo experiencias que vivieron en el viaje de Guadalajara. Y esto fue precisamente una de las primeras sesiones que tuvieron con otros padres, incluyendo interpretación en lengua de señas, porque dentro de esta escuela, Centro de Atención Múltiple Estatal número 15, también existe un grupo de madres que son sordas. Entonces, aquí se tienen diferentes elementos culturales que también están abordando muchísimo para el trabajo de estas madres líderes. De igual manera, en la otra imagen que tenemos del lado izquierdo, un grupo de madres con una camiseta de color amarillo. Las otras no traen la camiseta, pero también es un grupo en una fotografía muy cuestionado, muy generoso, que se han distinguido por su trabajo para el beneficio de la comunidad y para que las demás familias puedan encontrar un espacio de escucha, lo cual ha sido muy importante para ellas. Se han fortalecido entre las mismas familias y han logrado encontrar espacios en donde se reconocen como hermanos de vida. Comparten una vida en común gracias a que se conocieron por sus hijos. Y sus valores, hoy puedo decir que son la equidad, la paciencia, la armonía y la responsabilidad. Y con esto quiero terminar la presentación hablando sobre este liderazgo de transformación que ejercen las familias y que es un resultado del trabajo que se establece gracias a la vinculación entre la familia y el espacio escolar. Muchas gracias.
Stop share.
Thank you, Gloria and Maria del Carmen. That was a great presentation. Thank you. I'm sure you all agree that it's never enough to, I love hearing stories about families, and I love hearing stories about families supporting other families, and the connection that that you all shared with how the work that you're doing is so vital to making a difference in the children's lives. So thank you so much for sharing this important relationship. I'm wondering if we have any questions. That I see a few. Julieta, everybody's congratulating you. So well done. Excellent presentation on the work you are doing. Thank you for sharing. Julieta said an excellent presentation. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to put into the chat? Gloria, is Claudia's a question?
Yeah, no, it says, thank you, Mari Carmen, for the support and how she's making the experience so enriching. And then the next one's, thank you for sharing your experience, very enriching experience.
Wonderful to see all the smiling faces in the presentation of all those energized and empowered families. Yes. Great. Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Gloria or for Maria? Carmen? Well, you can think about it a little bit. If you have questions, you can put them into the chat. And at this point, what I would like to do is just to give a little more information about how these presentations, these topical conversations come to you. And they come to us as through Deafblind International, the Network of America. And there's an advisory group that's part of the Network of Americas, and I think everybody is here tonight. Teresa Tancock from Canada, Carolyn Monaco from Canada, Julia Meyer from USA, Laura Monteiro Anticilio from Brazil. Laura, yes, and Oriana Araya from Chile, Chris Montgomery from USA, Marianne Riggio from USA, and Gloria Rodriguez-Gill from USA. And we couldn't have done this also without Samantha Ely from USA, helping us with all the technical work to get this accomplished. So, and I don't think I introduced myself, but I'm Lisa Jacobs. You can tell from my little name on my photo, and I'm from USA as well. I get to work with Samantha.
There's a question from Oriana in this chat, Lisa. What is the participation of fathers in this project? So I think I will give it to Mari Carmen. ¿Cuál es la participación de los papás en el proyecto?
Desde siempre, la mayor parte de personas que asisten son mujeres, son madres, pero cada vez es mayor el número de hombres que también se suman a las sesiones y que además acompañan a su esposa, sobre todo en las parejas jóvenes. Esto ha sido algo que he notado a lo largo de las diferentes escuelas y en diferentes estados. Muchas parejas jóvenes y sobre todo también los abuelos en pareja asisten también para poder llevar la información, porque así lo expresan, llevar la información a sus hijos, que son los padres a veces de los niños pequeños o adolescentes, para que no se pierda la información porque son los que trabajan, ¿sí? Entonces, ellos como cuidadores toman la responsabilidad también no solo de ayudar a su hijo con los nietos, sino que también la responsabilidad de llevar la información a los padres. Entonces, creo que toda la familia se va implicando poco a poco. No solamente es la madre o el padre, sino que estamos logrando que se vaya tomando conciencia de la familia, no solo de los padres, la familia, que es algo necesario, ¿sí? Que se entienda como un todo y no solamente la madre o el padre. Si compartimos eso, si ellos si logramos que más familias entiendan que trabajando en conjunto es mejor, que podemos hacer más, entonces es más fácil que podamos tener la presencia de todos, cada vez vaya subiendo. Pero sí, hay personas que están muy preocupadas por saber y por llevar la información.
Otra pregunta de Laura, ¿y qué con los hermanos y las hermanas de los muchachos con discapacidad?
Ya. Ha habido mucha expectativa y necesidad de que también se pueda entablar sesiones, ya sea con las psicólogas de los planteles, para poder trabajar con los hermanos. Pero a veces, por las características del grupo colegiado, a veces los psicólogos que tienen son itinerantes en algunas escuelas. Es decir, no tienen un espacio fijo. Entonces se complejiza trabajar con una familia o con varias o con los chicos y dar un seguimiento, ¿sí? Muy puntual. Pero sí se tiene la necesidad y la iniciativa de querer hacer algo con los hermanos, pero no logran comprender cómo poder concentrarlos, ya sean chicos, adolescentes o jóvenes adultos, se encuentran ante ese problema. ¿Cómo poder reunirlos a todos? Entonces, lo que he tratado de recomendarles es que se tiene que ir por pasos y que lo ideal es que sea entre hermanos, ¿sí? No es tanto que los adultos estén mediando, porque los hermanos son los que tienen que compartir qué es lo que sienten para poder llegar a encontrar sentido a lo que están haciendo y poder comprender cuál es su rol también, ¿sí? Y conlleva muchas otras cosas, el entender que el tener un hermano con discapacidad, al final ya no es hablar de la discapacidad, es hablar de tu hermano como persona, como ser humano, como adulto, como joven. Y eso es un proceso de aprendizaje y de crecimiento constante. Pero sí es un tema muy importante que no debemos de dejar a un lado, ¿sí? Pero es un tema para trabajarlo. ¿Sí?
Thank you. Thank you, Maria del Carmen, so much
Yes,
for your insights and your answers. They're really, they're so thorough, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
welcome.
What we have two wonderful interpreters working with us this evening, Cecilia and Raquel, and we really thank them for that. And what we'd like to do now is to give them a 5-minute break, maybe to get a little cup of tea for their throat, and then we'll be back in touch on screen. So we're take a 5-minute break, and you can chat with friends in the chat as much as you want to, but we're not going to be talking for 5 minutes, okay? So we'll see you all in 5 minutes. Okay. We're going to start back again. So now if there's no further questions for Gloria or Maria Karen. Oh, there is a question from Bernadette. Said, did I understand well that the families and schools work together for different purposes, such as deafblind strategies or strategies on how to collaborate together?
Voy a traducir, Mari Carmen, si Bernadette pregunta si las familias trabajan y la escuela trabajan juntas para distintos propósitos, para estrategias sobre sordoceguera y estrategias de cómo colaborar juntos. Ya.
¿Ya está Raquel con la traducción? Sí. Sí, trabajan juntos, pero desde un principio es comenzar con establecer el vínculo, porque no es llegar y aquí están mis ideas y cómo le vamos a hacer, no. Es poco a poco van entendiendo cuál es su rol, cómo es que tenemos que establecer esa vinculación con el profesional para poder dialogar y poder establecer, intercambiar ideas, ¿sí? Para que estas ideas sean concretas, precisas, a corto plazo, que en un ciclo escolar pueda darse y que se puedan aterrizar en un plan de acción. El plan de acción de la escuela no está desvinculado. De esa manera, tanto las familias como los profesionales están trabajando de la mano. Y es un proceso dentro del cual precisamente pueden trabajar para las necesidades que tienen. Los profesores dentro de todo el esquema educativo que tienen que sacar adelante y las familias todo lo que se tiene que aprender, ¿sí? Porque las familias aprendemos, tenemos que estar constantemente de la mano de los profesionales para que puedan darse estas prácticas exitosas, ¿sí? Entonces, las estrategias van así, la colaboración se da junta, pero es escalonada. Primero hay que entender cuál es nuestra manera de entablar esa vinculación, ¿sí? Aprender inclusive a entender que los profesores también son personas y también tienen preocupaciones y que entonces podemos trabajar juntos si nos miramos y nos reconocemos como seres humanos. Y en ese momento podemos entonces intercambiar ideas. Entonces, este proceso es muy necesario para poder trabajar así, hombro con hombro, de manera coactiva.
Quiero agregar lo que dice Mari Carmen. El año pasado tuve la oportunidad de ir a Jalisco, a esta escuela José Quiroga, que ella menciona en su presentación como una escuela líder de colaboración entre profesionales y familias. Pero lo más interesante de todo esto es que cuando nosotros llegamos, cuando Perkins llegó, cuando Mari Carmen llegó, no era así la cosa. Dicho sea de paso, nos felicitaron porque se logró. Esto es una escuela relativamente rural, donde todas las familias y las escuelas se conocen, ¿verdad? Porque son de la comunidad. Y había un problema tan serio de relación que estaban totalmente divididas las familias y los profesionales. Dicho sea de paso, la líder del grupo de las familias que estaba enojada con la escuela era una mamá de 2 muchachos con sordoceguera, producto de síndrome de rubiola, que luego tuve la oportunidad de ir a la casa en esa misma visita a hacer un proyecto de mapas que estaban haciendo la maestra con los profesionales. Y ahí me enteré cómo esta parte de la vinculación, de entenderse, de conversar, va primero antes de la parte más técnica y del conocimiento. Porque si no se trabaja esa parte es muy difícil que una escuela salga adelante. Y ahora esa escuela, Mari Carmen habló de como una escuela líder en el trabajo colaborativo, pero así no fue hace unos meses, era totalmente distinta la situación. Inclusive la directora de Educación Especial del Estado de Jalisco llegó a felicitarnos y el director y los papás, o sea, todo el mundo estaba aliviado de que finalmente esta escuela estaba pudiendo trabajar en conjunto, una escuela unida. pero tomó varios meses el proceso de llegar allí.
Sí, estos años que se tiene a cargo con cada escuela, pues se va aprendiendo inclusive a cómo debemos de matizar nuestro discurso como familias. Tenemos que aprender tantas cosas y lo primero es a reconocer, a tener la capacidad nosotros como familias de reconocer a las demás personas que están a nuestro alrededor y que nos ayudan. Ese es el punto número uno, antes de pensar en cualquier otra cosa. Y sí, es un proceso difícil que va escalando, va escalando.
Thank you.
Laura. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So I think now we're ready. We can continue with questions after we hear from our next group, next speakers. We're going to hear from our friends from Canada. Teresa and Alana are going to be presenting about a model program of parent and school partnerships as well.
Okay. Do you want us to spotlight or are we good like this? Or can somebody spotlight us?
Teresa, this is already this is Julie, and you are already spotlighted.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. Looks good.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, everyone. A tough act to follow, Gloria Mary Carmen. My name is Teresa Tancock, and I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian Deafblind Association BC chapter. I want to acknowledge that I live, work, play, and thrive with gratitude on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish, Stolo, and Kwantlen peoples. I share their love and respect for this land and am committed to building relationships with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration.
Hi, my name is Alana Pierce, and I'm the coordinator for the Provincial Outreach Program for Students with Deafblindness in British Columbia, Canada. I want to acknowledge and thank the Musqueam peoples of the Hunkaminam language group, on whose traditional and unceded territories are where our program is located. In this presentation, Teresa and I will outline our programs and how our services complement one another. So the photo on this page is of a young girl using hand under hand to pet a baby chick that is in the hands of a woman who is her intervener. This is a photo taken at school. The BC Provincial Outreach Program for Students with Deafblindness, POPDB for short, was established in 1990 by the Ministry of Education and Childcare. The mandate of the program is to work with, oh, sorry, something just came up. Wait. Okay, sorry. The mandate of the program is to work with educational teams to support the needs of students with deafblindness in school settings. The program is hosted by Richmond School District number 38 for administrative purposes, but we work with teams across BC. All teachers in the program hold valid teaching certificates and have additional training in deafblindness. Currently, POPDB is working with 72 school teams who are educating a student with deafblindness. To give you an idea of the rate of incidence of deafblindness in BC schools, there are 663 500,000 students in the province. The number of students with deafblindness represents 0.01% of all students. When we talk about school age in BC, we refer to students who are between 5. Okay, I'll speak a little louder. Oh, a little slower, sorry. Sorry, I guess I'm a little nervous. When we talk about school age in BC, we refer to students who are between 5 and 19 years old, or in grades kindergarten to grade 12. BC follows an inclusive model of education, so all students attend a local school in their community. As a result, POPDB teachers travel throughout BC to work with school teams across all educational settings, including public schools, independent or private schools, and online schools. Online schools are often homeschool situations. The BC Ministry of Education and Childcare follows a medical model when determining deafblindness. That means a student's vision and hearing losses need to meet certain thresholds in order to be considered deafblind. The thresholds are, so for vision, the student must have at least one of the following: a visual acuity of 20/70 or less in the better eye after correction, a visual field of 20 degrees or less, a progressive eye disease with a prognosis of becoming one of the above in the next few years, or a visual problem related visual stamina. Okay, am I still going too fast? Visual
Anna,
stamina.
this is Julie. You sound just fine now.
Okay. Okay. A visual problem or related visual stamina that is not correctable and that results in the student functioning as if their visual acuity is limited to 20/70 or less. For hearing, the student must have one of the following, at least one of the following: moderate to profound unilateral or bilateral hearing loss, chronic conductive hearing loss during language learning years, or a confirmed medical diagnosis of auditory neuropathy spectrum disorder. PopDB we provide support in 3 parts. The icons on this page represent the district partner, ongoing consultation, and in-service and training. I'll briefly explain each part. The photo on this page is of a young child with her hands on top of an adult's hands, who is her intervener, as they use the brailler. The first part is the district partner. When PopDB works with a new school district, independent school, or online school, we request that they designate a district partner to act as a link between PopDB and the educational authority. This person is key because PopDB teachers are employees of Richmond School District, thus are invited guests to school teams outside of our employer. It is helpful to have someone who knows how to navigate the ins and outs, the processes and cultures of each individual school, so that we are mindful and respectful of them. School teams for students with deafblindness can be quite large, ensuring that we all work together to provide a quality educational program can be quite daunting when there are this many people involved, and that is part of the district partner's role. The district partner shares PopDB information with team members. Information might be stuff like courses, workshops, and our newsletter. The district partner will prepare and coordinate new referrals to PopDB. They also attend all our professional development events. It is helpful that they learn about deafblindness so they can be an advocate for the needs of the student with deafblindness in their educational authority. The photo on this slide shows a young child using a brailler with an adult's hands. The adult is her intervener, and her hands are on either side of the child's hands. The next part of our model of support to schools is ongoing consultation. PopDB teachers join the student's educational team and regularly visit students in their home schools throughout the school year, which runs from September to June. We often give priority to students who are new or who are in transition. Transition is a broad term and encompasses all life changes, such as changing schools, perhaps elementary to middle school, starting a new school in a new community, preparing for adulthood, and situations where the student is experiencing further loss of vision and or hearing. The third part, the photo in this on this page shows a woman who is an intervener using hand under hand to support a young girl to read a book with Braille. The third part in our model of service is in-service and training. PopDB provides opportunities for education and training in the field of deafblindness to our school teams. For example, we provide school-based training. Topics might include what is deafblindness or intervention, perhaps using best practices. These opportunities can be delivered in person, on professional development days in schools, or through online workshops after school, and are provided at no cost to school teams. PopDB hosts an annual conference and district partner meeting each year, alternating years between an online format and an in-person conference. This allows us to share current research, resources, materials, and suggestions for programming with our teams. We reach out to national and international speakers to engage in topical presentations. Lastly, PopDB has put together and teaches a deafblind intervention certificate program that is specifically designed to support educational assistants who are working with students with deafblindness in educational settings. The program is comprised of 9 courses and 1 practicum. There is a prerequisite if someone wants to take our program, and that is the educational assistant must be supporting a student with deafblindness in a BC educational setting. The program is not widely available due to PopDB's mandate, which is focused on BC students. Now I'll pass it over to Teresa, who will talk about CDBA BC.
Thanks, Alana. So the Canadian Deafblind Association BC chapter is one of 3 chapters in Canada under CDBA National, and I will refer to us as CDBA BC from here on. We're a not-for-profit organization governed by a board of directors, and our mission is to promote the awareness and recognition of deafblindness and deafblind intervention. The picture here is of a cake with white icing and red and colorful decorations with our logo on it, and was used for National Deafblind Awareness Month for our celebrations, which is in June, as you all know. The next slide has a picture of 3 life-size sheep frames, and they're covered in yarn, all multicolored yarn, also for National Deafblind Awareness Month. Our mandate is to promote public awareness of deafblindness as a unique disability and to promote the philosophy of deafblind intervention. This next slide has 2 photos, one of a group of adults and children who are standing behind a display of gingerbread houses, and another of an intervener, a woman who is leaning into a young man who's facing her, and they're having some conversation. We provide services primarily to children and youth with deafblindness from birth to 24 years and their families. We currently have 92 children and youth identified on our caseload, but we actively support approximately 60 children and youth throughout the year. As you will hear shortly, some of our programs are open to our members with deafblindness, many of which are adults who have transitioned off of our caseload into adult services. This next slide consists of 3 pictures at the top, one of a young child pressing their hand on a yellow switch in the hands of an adult. The middle picture has a series of baskets on a table, red and blue color, with a yellow bucket on the far right, and underneath or above it is strips of pockets with object cues in them. This is a communication system. And at the right, we have a young girl holding the hands of her intervener. They're facing each other. We have 3 main programs that are funded by the Ministry of Children and Family Development. We have the Early Intervention Program, the Intervention Program, and the Youth Transition Program. The goal of the Early Intervention Program is to work with families of children ages 0 to 5 who are functioning as deafblind, whether medically identified or not. The goal of the intervention program is to help children 2 years to age 19 or graduation who are deafblind to interact more fully with their environment through deafblind intervention. We provide the funding to allow families to hire interveners to work with their child with deafblindness during the spring, summer, and winter school breaks. The goal of the youth transition program is to support youth with deafblindness, their families, and their school teams in the transition to the adult world. And we start this process around 14 years old, and we join school teams, et cetera, and we do lots of work with other facets that are involved in becoming an adult and transitioning to adult services. Alana had mentioned the deafblindness definition that they use for the Ministry of Children and Education, Ministry of Education and Childcare. And CDB-ABC also, oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong slide. I'm sorry. We have additional programs. CDBA also offers additional programs such as the summer recreational program, the virtual recreation program, the hospital relief intervention services program, and sensory clinics. And on this slide, you will see a picture of a young girl who is examining very closely a starfish, which she explored when we were at one of our programs at the aquarium. Another one is our virtual rec program, and it's a series of people on Zoom, and they're all holding up their craft of a rocket ships. And the third one is a picture of our sensory clinics. We have a tent with colorful lights, yellow, blue, and red, and things hanging down from the roof. The goal of the summer recreation program is to provide the opportunity for our members with deafblindness, along with their interveners and families, to explore new activities and develop social relationships with others who are deafblind within their community. The virtual rec program brings together families and interveners and focuses on different themes. The crafts, ASL signs, songs, and stories are all related to that theme. And each activity is planned by an intervener resource team of 6 to 7 interveners who come together seasonally to plan these activities. And these activities are offered each season, so spring, summer, fall, and winter. The hospital intervention services and relief intervention services programs provides the support of an intervener to individuals with deafblindness within a hospital setting or in a crisis situation, facilitating communication and access to information within their environment. It allows families and people who are with the child or youth while they are during these times to have a break, maybe go for a nap, go have dinner, go do some shopping, and the intervener can support the individual during that time. Sensory clinics are developed to offer sensory experience, exploration, networking, and training for our children and youth with deafblindness, for their parents, their siblings, and the interveners in a safe environment. They have been offered as weekend events, day clinics, or as an activity at our family fun days. Now I will do this slide. So for the school-age children we support, we use the same criteria as POPDB from the Ministry of Education and Childcare for our 5 years up to graduation, as Alana had described earlier in the presentation. But our early intervention is somewhat different. Children birth to age 5 are accepted into the early intervention program based on the recommendation from medical professionals that they are deafblind. In BC, we have the early hearing screening program, and so diagnosis of hearing issues is often done at birth. But sometimes testing is inconclusive for vision and hearing, so medical professionals recommend them entering our early intervention program based on their functional deafblindness, as our strategies that we use are known in the field and are seen as helpful at an early age, navigating the world of sensory differences and vision, such as vision and hearing differences. Alana, you're up.
Thanks, Teresa. To sum up our 2 programs in this T-chart, POPDB works with school teams. We have a narrow age range for students, and our focus for support is provided in schools only. CDB-ABC supports children with deafblindness and their families from birth to age 24 in home and community settings. POPDB is funded by the BC Ministry of Education and Childcare, while CDBA is funded by the BC Ministry of Children and Family Development. This is significant, and we'll talk about that in a minute. For school-age students, both POPDB and CDBA use the Ministry of Education child care criteria for determining deafblindness. And lastly, POPDB only accepts referrals from school-based teams, while CDBA may receive referrals from a number of professionals, including vision specialists, audiologists, and other medical professionals. They also accept referrals from families. There are 4 areas of support in which CDBA and POPDB collaborate. The picture on this slide is of a circle sectioned into 4 colored pieces or parts, like a pie. Intervention is yellow, school transitions is green, youth transition is blue, and events and professional development is pink. So let's start with the yellow piece of the circle, which is intervention. The first area where we collaborate, this is the first area where we collaborate. Both POPDB and CDBA believe in the philosophy of deafblind intervention for individuals with deafblindness and the right to an intervener. POPDB and CDBA BC work together to find interveners for students participating in the CDBA intervention program and plan and coordinate workshops for interveners for education. We also meet to discuss specific intervention needs of children with deafblindness in the school, home, and community. Next is the green piece of the circle, which is school transitions, another area where we collaborate. Both POPDB teachers and CDBA staff are part of the school transition team. Together, we help facilitate school transitions, such as preschool to kindergarten, elementary to middle school, and middle to secondary school. During summers and breaks, the CDBA intervention programs offer support to schools to help children orient to school buildings, playgrounds, and communities. Next is the blue piece of the circle, which is youth transitions. POPDB and CDBA BC work together when a student is transitioning to adulthood. Both programs are part of the student's team, and the goal is for a smooth transition to adult life. It requires all team members to be coordinated. Where possible, we work on training staff at adult day and residential programs. Both programs might be part of the planning, coordination, and facilitation of representation agreements. The last piece of the circle is the pink piece, which is events and professional development. POPDB and CDBA attend in-services hosted by medical professionals. We also facilitate and attend in-services and workshops for families, parents, interveners, and other professionals. We support and promote events for children and youth with deafblindness and their families. We attend conferences to keep current with best practices and research in the field. And now Teresa will talk about why our model works and where we find things to be difficult.
So our collaboration works well for a number of reasons. We both offer education workshops and collaborate for presentations at conferences. The partnership between POPDB and CDBA BC works well because we both strive to ensure children with deafblindness and their families feel supported, both at home, in the community, and in school. Support for children and their families can be offered year-round. The Ministry of Education only permits POPDB to work within the school parameters. Therefore, POPDB and CDBA BC collaborate to ensure school strategies and educational goals are carried into the home and community. Communication between the two programs is helpful. Transitions, whether they are home events, medical changes, or school changes, can be stressful for children with deafblindness and their families. Working together helps alleviate some of the stresses on families. And there's an easy and friendly exchange between the staff of our two programs. Permission to share information for most students has been given and allows communication between the two programs, making it more collaborative and efficient and effective. When there's an issue in the school that needs to carry over into home and vice versa, we collaborate together and get together and talk about how that can work. If there's something that's being worked on at school the staff there cannot go into the home to ensure that it's paired at home. So then we will go in and do that with CDBA staff. The sharing of educational opportunities enriches the quality of intervention services available to children and their families, as well as education professionals across BC. And this slide shows two young boys giving each other a high five. This next slide shows two hands holding up puzzle pieces, which just are not quite working together. And these are our stretches. This is why this is showing why we have significant issues that we're up against. For one, the funding for each program comes from different sources. As we've talked about before, POPDB is funded by the Ministry of Education and Childcare, while CDBA-BC is funded by the Ministry of Children and Family Development. And each ministry has a very different focus. For example, MCFD, Ministry of Children and Family Development, allows and encourages agencies such as CDBA-BC to collaborate freely, while the Ministry of Education and Childcare is tied specifically to schools in the education realm. CDBA-BC works year-round with children with deafblindness and their families. The POPDB is available only during the school year, which is September to June, and the school week, which is Monday to Friday. When POP teachers participate in the evening, weekend, and school break activities or events, they're volunteering their time. Whereas with CDBA, we are not necessarily volunteering. We can work our daily, weekly schedule around those events. The POPDB Deafblind Intervention Certificate Program is not available to CDBA-BC to use as a training vehicle. Because it is a program of the Ministry of Education, we can't allow outside interveners that are outside the school system to come in and get training from that source. As a result, POPDB is not staffed to be able to offer or teach the deafblind intervention beyond the scope of services for students in school settings. CDBA-BC will hire school interveners for our intervention program during the school breaks, but not all of the school interveners have been trained by POPDB, I should say not all of our interveners have, just those that are within the school system have been trained by POPDB. So CDBA-BC needs to access international programs such as the Open Hands, Open Access learning modules for training for their interveners. School interveners who have extensive training in deafblind intervention from the Provincial Outreach Program for students with deafblindness are not always available for summer, winter, or spring intervention program breaks with CDBA-BC. They may have families or feel the need to take a break from providing intervention. Additionally, interveners in school settings receive a higher wage that CDBA-BC is not able to match. Again, an issue with our funding sources. CDBA-BC can also go into the schools to attend team meetings with permission or request of either the parents or the school team. As we have mentioned earlier, POPDB is not permitted to go into the home, making the flow of communication between the two programs very essential. And we have to work together to ensure that things cross over from home to community and to school. Here we have a picture of a group of women, Alana and myself included, with our black t-shirts, some of which have the fingerprint logo on the back. And if you look closely in the logo, you can see an ear and an eye. Alana and I want to thank you for allowing us to present. Our two programs complement each other well, allowing us to use a holistic approach when supporting the children and youth with deafblindness throughout BC. And on this slide, you'll see our contact information should you wish to contact us to chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Alana. That was really terrific. I so appreciate you sharing what your experiences, and also I'm drawn by the continuum of holistic care that you offer, and that the collaboration was really clear and really well laid out. I also thought the use of the word stretches was a great one because we all have them, right? And it just makes, it's just part of our work. And I thought that was a great word to use. And I think the photos of the hand under hand are really fantastic. I loved all of those photographs of the hand under hand, those little hands on top of bigger hands. That was really sweet
Thank you.
and so powerful. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Teresa or Alana? Oriana, Gloria, is that a question for Oriana? From Oriana?
Yeah, it's a comment from her.
Oh,
She says that, let me find it, that is very important that, sense makes sensible to other people, other countries to recognize deafblindness as a unique disability. In Chile, they pass a law and they're in the process of writing the rules and regulations of that law, and they're part of that. She's part of that movement. Parties too.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
go ahead, Teresa.
I'll also add, that is actually something we didn't mention. That's one of our stretches as well. The Ministry of Education recognizes deafblindness as unique, and thereby funding that is given to those children and youth is specific to deafblindness, which allows them a full-time intervener. With the Ministry of Education, we're under our government for social development, and it is not recognized as unique. So deafblindness is often lumped in with hearing and or vision, mostly hearing, deaf and hard of hearing. So that also gives a bit of a constraint around what we can do within our parameters of each program and how we collaborate. But we're very good at being creative. Alana and I and our teams are very good at getting together and figuring out a way to make things work.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Teresa said. It is very strange that the Ministry of Education does recognize deafblindness as a unique disability. It is a separate funded category in the school system, but when you look at the Ministry for Family, or was it Children and Family Development, it isn't recognized, and it is lumped in with deaf and hard of hearing. Interestingly, too, blind and visual impairment is also not, I don't believe, is really recognized by MCFD either. So that's another interesting little tidbit. But like Teresa says, we all look for ways to navigate and advocate for our students, for children, youth, families, adults as best we can.
Well done. Yeah, and you're getting a lot of love on the chat of really appreciating what your presentation. There's folks that want to move to Canada. That and that it's a great program, and that it's a wonderful that the ministries in Canada supports intervener services in both school settings and home and community settings, even with year stretches, which that is rare in the US. There is a question here of, I was wondering how much either of your programs collaborate with programs that support children and youth who are blind, low vision, or programs for deaf children or youth. Do you have those opportunities?
I'll handle that for schools.
Okay.
Certainly, we do at PopDB. We also work with, there's a program called the Provincial Resource Center for the Visually Impaired. And so like how PopDB works with school age 5 to 19, PRCBI provides support to children who are blind or have low vision, also in the school system. We also work with another organization, similarly PopDHH, Provincial Outreach Program for Students who are deaf and hard of hearing. So we will collaborate with them on different events. What's kind of neat is that our students straddle both of those areas. So often they are welcome to attend the events with the visually impaired and blind kids, as well as events that are for kids who are deaf and hard of hearing. So it's kind of neat that our kids get to be part of both. And it allows for everybody comes to deafblindness, I think, sometimes from different perspectives. Some people come through the deaf and hard of hearing sort of perspective. Some people come to it through blind visual impairment. So it allows families to have that choice to help identify where they fit into the mosaic of deafblindness. So that's what happens in English in education. And Teresa?
And for us, we do collaborate hugely with other agencies on both sides of the realm. I and Sue both sit on the Shared Vision group, and that is a whole bunch of organizations that all organizations at BC that support blind visually impaired or blind low vision. And I also sit on the Council of Service Providers, which is the same for agencies of deaf, hard of hearing, and deaf blind. So we collaborate quite a bit. We do events, collaborate with events on both sides. And then also Sue and Allison with our early intervention program will often do home visits with other agencies from deaf, hard of hearing, and blind low vision. So we do a lot of collaborations for sure.
Great. We have one more question and then we'll end. In Ontario,
Oh,
the
we have
oh,
a question in Portuguese.
oh,
Sorry.
sure, Laura, go ahead, please.
So, yeah, it's Marilene from Brazil.
Yes.
She's asking what happens after 21 years old of the young person or with deaf blindness.
You're finding some
And
of the
she's,
holes and some of the
thanking
problems.
all the presentations.
Yes,
Sorry?
there are some holes in adult services. This is there's a lot of support in BC for ages birth to 24. After that, it gets a little bit more complicated and supports are less. The Canadian National Institute for the Blind is doing a study right now in British Columbia about services for adults with an aim to improving them. So that's, I think, another 10 months where Teresa and I are both participating in it as well. Yeah, I'm better at speaking up to about age 19 graduation. Teresa, you want to handle after 24?
As Alana and I said, we have the transition program. So we just last April were granted, CDBA was just granted extra funding to take us to age 24. Prior to that, we were only supporting up to 19 years, and anything after that was fee for service. And we now have funding up to age 24. So that's a huge step in the right direction. That being said, there's a lot of years left in the lifetime of an individual with deaf blindness. So I support how I can, mostly after 24 as a fee for service, because there's no specific funding and no agency. There used to be one for adults, but it has since dissolved. So we are working towards that, and the increase that we had last year is definitely a step in the right direction, and we're getting our name out there and the word out there. So the hope is that we will continue to push that age limit back a bit, but we do what we can, and how we can, for sure.
Great. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Alana. And there's just one last question. In Ontario, the intervener program to become an intervener, Carolyn's program, is geared towards both schools and home and community. If I understand well, is the certifying process different between provinces?
Our program, well, intervener is not a recognized category, I don't think, in British Columbia. The program that we do through POPDB is you receive a certificate from us. It really it's geared towards school districts and independent schools and their hiring practices. So it is not, I wouldn't say it's quite as comprehensive as the program at George Brown College. where you're looking at home and school as well. Ours is specifically designed for school setting.
As a result, like we said earlier, our interveners for the CDBA program, if they're not school staff, we have to look elsewhere for training because we don't have any other training for those outside of the school system in BC. So they would have to go to George Brown, or we offer the open hands, open access learning modules, which we have been given permission to use for our CDBA staff. And we actually are using that with all 3 of our CDBA chapters across Canada. We have a chapter in Saskatchewan and one in New Brunswick. So all our staff are able to take the modules.
Great. Thank you both very much for your answers. And with the last minute left, I just want to share with you that the Network of America's advisory group are really interested in doing these kinds of topical sessions about 3 times a year on topics that you might be more interested in learning about. So please reach out to us if there are other topics that you're interested in. We will continue to use the survey that we did some time back as a framework, but we really would love to hear from you. And also to let you know that Deafblind International has some upcoming conferences, one in 2025 in Nepal, and then in 2027, the International Conference on Deafblind International in Switzerland. So there'll be more information coming up, I'm sure, and we really appreciate you taking the time with us tonight. I'd like to end with just a quote that I found earlier today that I thought was really so poignant to what we talked about this evening, and our presenters did a wonderful job of really reflecting this. The quote says, "Collaboration between parents and teachers is the key to unlocking a child's potential. It takes a village to raise a child, and we are all part of that village, a global village." So good night, Global Village. Thank you all so much